product provided by Nintendo for Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. You read the title correctly. Xenoblade Genesis has the potential to be the franchise's breakout moment. The turning point from niche RPG to less niche RPG. We've spent the time since the announcement theorizing, but now it's time to talk about the game itself. How it's looking, what they have showed, and also what they haven't. Let's talk visual direction, let's talk a new world of Anshaw, and also let's talk gameplay. Hello everybody, it's your boy Jmulls, and we have a lot to talk about. Overall, I would say I'm very positive when it comes to Xenoblade Genesis, and I'm really looking forward to just diving into the game because it has so much potential. And the biggest takeaway for me from this initial trailer that we got at the Nintendo Direct is this duality, this feeling that we know so much, it can piece together so much, or at least glean a lot of information from this trailer, but at the same time, and honestly in an even larger slice of the pie, just this overwhelming feeling that we know nothing, that they've held back so much information from this trailer, and it makes me absolutely fascinated by what the final product is going to look like, how it's going to play, how it's going to feel, what the pacing is going to be, how it's going to flow and all that. Because yeah, it's like right here in this part of the trailer, they talk about this academy we're going to go to as the protagonist here. Eleanor going to this academy Lucas. I do agree with this sentiment that I've seen go around because I felt this initially when I first saw the trailer at the Nintendo Direct on stream. It really does feel like in certain swaths of this trailer that they were inspired to some degree at least from Fire Emblem Three Houses. And it makes me feel as if they want this game to be their Fire Emblem Three House moment. To be the game that really takes what many consider a niche RPG franchise, or a niche strategy game franchise for Fire Emblem, right? And really push it forward when it comes to popularity. And I want to preface what I'm about to say by just stating the following. I like how the game looks. I'm not overly sold on the character design, but quite a few characters have really grown on me since the initial reveal, and for a lot of like art, that's kind of the case for me. I may not like how something will look, but give it enough time and me actually playing the game, like my brain just kind of clicks with it and then I start to like it. And I think it's already started to happen for me when it comes to like the character design here, because I'll also be honest, when I first saw Xenoblade 3's characters, I wasn't a big fan, and then I really grew to like them. Visually, I mean. I think the same can be said for like Xenoblade Genesis here. I will say, it does look very different in some ways to what we have come to know and expect out of Xenoblade, but I don't think it's like completely out of left field or anything. I wouldn't say it's unrecognizable, but I do think it's one of those situations where if they didn't preface this announcement by saying it was a Xenoblade game, it would have taken me quite a while to realize it was a Xenoblade game. But like I said, I like how the world looks, I like how a lot of the characters look. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Just because something is different doesn't mean it doesn't fit in with the series and its history. I also think it's one of those situations, right, where it's like the more I look at it, the more it does kind of just look and feel like Xenoblade in a lot of ways. It's obviously different. I don't think it's as far out there as some people let on. I can understand why people would be like, this doesn't look or feel like Xenoblade, but I feel like the more I look at it, the more it kind of does. But I do think one of their intentions behind just the way this game looks, the way the characters look, the way the world looks, the fact we're going maybe to an academy here, it wouldn't surprise me if one of their main motivations was to try to appeal to a broader audience. And this has been a frequent conversation when it comes to Xenoblade Chronicles, and that is just, what is it about the franchise that keeps it down to that 1 to 2 million sales number? Some people have pointed to like the anime aesthetic. I've always pushed back on that notion because if that was the case, 2 wouldn't have been the one that sold the most. I always viewed it to be more of an excuse than an actual reason holding Xenoblade as a franchise back in terms of sales figures. I also don't subscribe to the notion that sales figures make a game better or represent that a game is better. So to me, while I do think one of their intentions is to appeal to a broader audience, I don't think the artistic direction of Xenoblade Genesis is going to really move the needle in a major way. because I think there's another element to this game that is going to be a far, far larger slice of the pie when it comes to, will this game land? Will it appeal to a bunch of new people and to a new audience? And also, will it appeal to the established Xenoblade fandom? That is the gameplay. Ordinarily, I would talk about the story, and I have in the last like couple of days, right? I've talked about it rather extensively. I'm looking forward to it. I think the world itself and the way that it looks, this idea that's like on the inside of a sphere or some kind of geometrical construct, like maybe an egg or a cylinder or just something, right? Or like a ring world maybe. And like on the inside of this geometrical structure, that's such a cool idea. And the world is pretty and it makes me want to explore everything, right? And then we have this giant ship in the middle of this like crater here that we've been talking about quite a bit. I'm sold on the world of Ansha. Cool. I want to explore it. I want to deep dive it. Like I said before, though, I think the thing that's going to really make or break this game when it comes to what I imagine their stated goal here is, and that is to acquire and to appeal Xenoblade to a broader audience, it's going to be the gameplay, and let's get into that right now. So let's talk gameplay, because I think the Genesis trailer showed quite a bit, but also we know basically nothing, kind of like every other element of this game. Now, while they didn't show combat, what they did show quite a bit is this right here, navigating the world, experiencing the open world of Ansha. And also this right here, which I think is absolutely fascinating, because riding around on what I can only assume is an animal that will evolve into the Clarions from Xenoblade X, these weird like horse entities that we just ride around, and they go pretty dang fast, honestly. And then later on in the trailer, you know, the bit with the giant spaceship, right? We also have just flying around on a dragon, which I can only assume is a gameplay mechanic, and that's how we're going to be able to fly later on in the game. Actually, it's a wyvern. They called it a dragon. That or this is misleading as all heck, but that's a theory for another time. Besides that, this trailer has a progression where it shows you as Eleanor walking around the world, walking around Lukos, running through the forest, running through the grassy fields. All Xenoblade games have to have by law. Again, wouldn't have it any other way. Then it shows you on, for lack of a better term, horseback. I think we coined the term Xenomusume on stream. Wait, that'd be the Clarions. Xeno lore is complicated, people. And then after all that, they show the dragon. What that signals to me is that the open world and the progression of exploring the open world will function in a way similar to Xenoblade X. What do I mean by this? Well, in Xenoblade X, you started out exploring the world of Mira on foot. You would jump, run, fight, all on foot. You would learn the world, you would experience the world through that perspective. And then after chapter 6, you could do a series of side quests to unlock that bad boy right there, a Skell. And you could also transform into a vehicle like that to go even faster around the world. Now, you would never use that form because it controls like a blind guy trying to skate in the NHL on a thick level of olive oil. But besides that one little like kink in the armor, exploring the world of Mira with the Skell completely changed everything. It changed your perspective. You could run faster, you could drive quicker, I guess. You could also jump higher and farther, and it allowed you to explore the world through a whole new lens. And then later on in the game, product preferred by Nintendo for Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, you would be able to fly, and then you could completely change your perspective and just the overall way you interface with the game. It changed everything. And this was the point in the game where the back of the box promise really became reality. Where the back of the box said, if you can see it, you can reach it. With flying, you finally could. I think when it comes to the open world navigation and the way you interface with the world of Ansha, it's going to operate on a very similar principle to Xenoblade Chronicles X, where you're going to start out on foot, then at some point in the game, maybe relatively early on, you're going to learn how to be on the horse, or again, goat thing. And then way later in the game, you'll get your dragon, you're going to fly around the world. And if the world really is like on the inside of a sphere, like a hollow world situation, like a halo ring or something like that, maybe you'll be able to fly from like one point right through the shape to the other side, and it'll be really dang cool. And we'll all nerdgasm about that. We'll make clips and montages powers and the whole like. But besides that, right, I think that's going to be the progression loop for the open world navigation of the game. It's going to be basically a high fantasy version of Xenoblade X, and I'm all here for it. Heck, maybe, just maybe, at some point later in the game, we'll go in here and actually just get a giant robot, and maybe that'll be the true progression. But then horse, then dragon, and then giant robot dragon, who knows? Is that all real, just speculation? Yeah, but it does seem kind of likely. For me, Xenoblade X is my favorite example of an open world game ever. I love that game to death. If they want to iterate on that formula and possibly expand on it, I'm all here for that. Especially a world that is designed like Anshaw seemingly is. Now let's talk about the actual combat, because while I don't think there's anything definitive we can truly say about it, including just how the combat even is, because they didn't show it, I am expecting some rather large revisions to what we expect out of a Xenoblade combat system. But let's start with something maybe a little bit more concrete. Maybe not concrete, but like concrete adjacent. Early on in this trailer, before the 1 minute mark even, we have this scene of a protagonist, Eleanor, getting an Anima Cry Stone from Dr. Nerd McGee over here. And he's basically placing it at the bottom of the sword into this little slot with like hanging magnetically or, you know, with anima just in that spot. And he says right here, it not only amplifies a Vesselai's powers, Vesselai basically being the name for a person that utilizes anima for warfare, like a warrior that uses anima, which is like the ether equivalent for this game. It not only amplifies a Vesselai's powers, but also records its bearer's thoughts and actions. That is obviously going to have lore significance over the course of the game, but I also think it might give us an idea about how the progression for combat and gameplay is going to be. So for Xenoblade 3, you had the class system, where a character could learn a class and they could swap to that class. It would swap their abilities, their arts over to that class, right? And you could like mix and match in the whole shebang, right? What I think they're going to probably do here is have each character be more separate, where each main party member is going to get their own Anima Cry Stone. And, you know, by grinding, killing mobs, doing quests, you'll get like Anima Cry Stone experience or whatever they want to call it, probably just anima. And you'll spend that anima in some kind of user interface screen to acquire a whole bunch of power-ups, maybe new arts, maybe new abilities. Maybe it'll look something kind of like the Interlink upgrade tree from Xenoblade 3. Maybe they bring that one back, if you recall that. But instead of having that for the Interlink form, it's just how each character operates and progresses over the course of the game. Now, if there's one thing we know with absolute certainty, it's that in Xenoblade, Monolith loves having characters learn abilities from other characters. So maybe there'll be some kind of crossplay between one character getting more powerful and be able to utilize those abilities, traits, or passive abilities on another character some way, like transferring anima from one Anima Cry Stone into another one, or being able to share it or replicate that. They are saying the Anima Cry Stone records its bearer's thoughts and actions, so maybe it's kind of like a computer or like a hard drive, and like copy and paste those thoughts and actions to another Anima Cry Stone, thus being able to copy like the combat power or the combat muscle memory and all that to another character. Maybe something along those lines. I think that could be pretty cool. Then funnily enough, we have this scene at the 1 minute and 11 second mark in the trailer, where we have totally not Fei Fong Wong over here, rushing towards the camera, lighting up with anima, fist in the air, better slam that down and it forms this giant claw. That's almost certainly going to be like his main signature ability, or at least one of his abilities. The ability to summon this giant claw, or maybe parts of some greater monster, or whatever. And if every character is going to have something along these lines, that could be so dang cool. I also wonder, just because of the pace of the action scenes in this trailer, if combat is going to be something along the lines that I've been suggesting Xenoblade go for: up the speed, up the pace, and up the physicality of it. What do I mean by this? So I have something that may be a bit of a controversial take when it comes to Xenoblade, and I've said for a while, I think the main thing holding the series back from further popularity wasn't the anime style, it wasn't the story, it wasn't anything like that, it was the gameplay. Because when a new player or someone looking at the franchise for the very first time and saying, hey, maybe this will be for me, maybe I want to get into it, let me see what the game's all about, they will look at the game, and this is applicable for every Xenoblade game. I'm just showing Xenoblade 2 because I have footage for it, but it's applicable applicable to all the Xenoblade games. They will look at the gameplay and it'll be a visual cluster. There'll be a lot of information, a lot of flashy animations thrown in your face. You won't really know what's going on. You're not going to be able to really tell what the enemies are doing, what you're actually doing throughout pretty much anything like this. It's visually cluttered. There's a lot of sound effects blaring in your ear. People will get confused. They're going to see characters just like hit random air and apparently that's doing damage to the enemy. Maybe try out the game. In the early levels, you press a couple of arts and you have to wait like 10 to 15 seconds for them to come off a cooldown, and you're just kind of standing there wondering what you're supposed to do and if you're doing something wrong. And in my opinion, that is not a good first impression when it comes to trying to get a whole bunch of people to play your game. Now, I like the combat of Xenoblade. I don't think a good series or even good gameplay is defined by being really popular or even mainstream. But I've said before, if Monolith and or Nintendo want to get a lot more people to play and try out Xenoblade, the thing they would have to augment and adjust would be the gameplay. I don't think just like, let's make it Dark Souls or Elden Ring or something like that. I don't think that's the play. I don't think you just make it parry slop. But what I do think you do is you alter the core gameplay loop that is here with Xenoblade. You keep the art system, but you speed things up. When you press a button, I want that animation to be basically done in like half, if not even a quarter of the time that it already takes in a Xenoblade game with an animation. I think combat just needs to feel far quicker, snappier, and more visceral, with way less visual bloat, way less auditorial bloat, and just be visually clear overall, while also looking mechanically satisfying to someone who has no understanding or prior experience with the franchise within 5 seconds of just looking at the game. The worlds that Xenoblade create and concoct are absolutely gorgeous to look at. The music is great. All of that is a giant win in my opinion, but at the end of the day, sure, not everybody plays a game for the gameplay, but a lot of people do, or it's going to be a giant slice of their pie. People are going to look at the world of Xenoblade Genesis, especially as more trailers come out and more information is presented. They're going to look at the world of Xenoblade Genesis. They're going to go, oh, that looks really dang cool. I would love to explore that personally. They're going to see scenes of battles in Xenoblade Genesis like this and go, oh, that is really cool. What is all of this about? I kind of want to learn more about this. Look at that really cool fireball animation. Look at this character draw his sword and all that. Oh, who is this character? Maybe I want to learn more about her. She looks pretty dang cool. Oh, cool. Look, she has elf ears. People are going to see things like this and go, oh, that's really dang cool. What's the gameplay like? Does it look like that? And I would argue regular Xenoblade gameplay doesn't. And when it comes to Xenoblade Genesis, yes, over the last couple of days, I've theorized various ways it can connect with the other games and even going all the way back to Xenogears, right? We've talked about those connections. We're going to continue to talk about those connections. However, they clearly want to assure people that, hey, if you have never touched a Xenoblade game before, don't worry, don't concern yourself. You can just start right here. Even those who have not played the Xenoblade series before can enjoy Xenoblade Genesis starting from here. Sure, they're not expecting this series to gain like Zelda or 3D Mario level numbers. That would be highly unrealistic. They clearly want to appeal to more people though. And I think the way to do that is by not abandoning your identity wholesale, but augment it. I think they're trying to appeal to more people just when it comes to the art style and the presentation of this game. I do kind of think Lucos is not going to survive the game. Heck, I'd be surprised if it survives like the first act, right? This place might just be the Lahan for this game. If you played Xenogears, you know what I mean. But there is a vibe that I agree with that makes this game feel like it's in line with Fire Emblem Three Houses. I think they probably want this game to be the Fire Emblem Three House moment for Xenoblade. I don't think you do that aesthetically though. Sure, the setting is interesting, but I think the main thing they have to adjust would be the gameplay. There's other slices of the pie. I just think that gameplay slice is the vastly bigger one. There's another interesting element to talk about when it comes to all of this. And can I find the trailer? There you are, the Switch 2 editions for Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3. Where can I find them? Yeah, Xenocon is really cool and all, but when it comes to the Switch 2 editions for Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3, they're doing way more than I thought they would. For Xenoblade 1, which is already out, they're adding Xenocon into the game. Like, that's been a meme for so long, and it's just there, and it plays so well. Besides that, right? For Xenoblade 2, the way it sounds is that the Merc missions, those mobile gaming missions you could do by sending your blades out to do like quests in the background, it seems like those are playable now. But it also seems as if the gameplay presented here is very different. You can just tell from the UI here. So I am personally wondering if maybe what they are doing in Xenoblade 2 with this Merc mission mode will come back in Xenoblade Genesis to some degree. I highly doubt it would be one for one, but look at the animations of what's going on here. It's exactly what I was talking about earlier. Faster animations, fast, snappier combat that feels more viscerally satisfying, and also more readily apparent and visually digestible to someone not understanding what's going on. Sure, we don't get much to go with here, but look right here. Look, boom, whack, 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 whack. Show a little bit more than that, and that's basically what I'm talking about. And it seems like you can select these different blades down here for like their own special. So maybe each character is going to have like some kind of overworld combo system, and the way you retain the arts is like through specials or through some other gameplay mechanism that'll be in Xenoblade Genesis and not the Xenoblade 2 additional Merc mission mode, right? But maybe it's something like this, where they give you some basic rudimentary combos for the overworld to weave in between the arts. I think that by itself could go a long way, especially if they continue to work on like the visual clarity of everything going on and making sure that when you press a button, it feels impactful, meaty, and looks like you're hitting the mob and you're doing things that are hurting the mob or impacting the mob. That visual feedback, that visual clarity, I keep hopping on about this, but it's so dang important. Or they just go full Diablo, like Vampire Survivors when it comes to this. When it comes to Xenoblade 3, I highly doubt it, but like maybe it's a minigame or something. Could be really dang cool, who knows? Again, you gotta love Xenoblade, man. You really gotta. Like, what other fan base eats as well as us, you know? I'm so ready just to dive in and play these two different modes and just see what they're all about, because I'm so curious. I'm kind of getting off track here because I'm getting distracted by how cool this looks, but still, back to Xenoblade Genesis. Like, can you imagine a combat system that feels faster and more viscerally impactful while also having animations like this that you can just weave into the combat? You show people stuff like that with the Xenoblade storytelling and world building that we all know and love. That to me is how we get to like the title of the video and what I was talking about in the introduction. This big breakout moment where the game's popularity can go from here to like here. It won't be like the next Call of Duty or something, right? But if they really want this series to be more successful sales-wise, that's the avenue. Augment and adjust the gameplay, make it more readable, easy to parse visually, easily understood quickly, make that first impression when you see the first 5 seconds of the gameplay loop, get people hooked on that alone. That will go a long, long way. Man, now I'm just thinking about how cool it's going to be if we can actually fly a dragon from like this spot and not like across the landmass up in the air a little bit to get over here, right? But like straight from this point through the sky all the way over there. If the world truly is on the inside of like a sphere or like a ring or something like that, that would be so dang cool, man. And if you give me combat that kind of feels like this right here, that pace, that viscerality, man, 2027 can't come fast enough. So here's where you come in. Leave a comment down below with what you want to see out of Xenoblade Genesis. What do you hope they talk about, show, or reveal going forward? How do you feel about the game so far? Leave your thoughts, hear your opinions, and hear your perspectives. And while you're down there, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. And oh yeah, we have a lot of theories to talk about. A big one is how the game connects back to Xenogears, and also Perfect Works, because it might be right in front of our nose. Honestly, they aren't really even subtle about it. There's a lot to talk about. Want to find out more? Check out this video right here. Thank you all for tuning in. Stay safe. Have a great day. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye, everybody. Until we meet again.